All right, good evening, everyone. The time is 6:02 p.m. It is Tuesday, April the 20th, and I'm going to call the special city council meeting to order. Would the city secretary please call the roll?
Mitchell.
Here.
Coach.
Here.
Ellison.
Present.
Flores Kale.
Here.
Rizzo.
Here.
Bradshaw.
Here.
Tobias.
Here.
All right, 7 members present. We have a quorum. Next up, citizen comments. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to come forward and speak on any item? Seeing none, I'm going to close citizen comments. Next up, executive session. Councilmember Bradshaw.
Pursuant to Chapter 551, Texas Government Code, the City Council reserves the right to convene into executive session from time to time as deemed necessary during this meeting. The City Council may convene into executive session pursuant to any lawful exception contained in Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, including any or all of the following topics: pending or contemplated litigation, or to seek the advice of the city attorney pursuant to Section 551.071, City Lights and Kyle Marketplace Subdivision Development, changeable electronic variable message sign, downtown utilities, Prairie Lakes mud, and convene into executive session pursuant to Section 551.087 Texas Government Code to deliberate regarding the offer of economic incentives to one or more of the business prospects that the city seeks to have locate, stay, or expand in or near the city. Project Ebernine, Project Pacific Blue, Project Mulberry, Project Apricot.
Taken in executive session, there will be no action taken now. A motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Now we're going to call the regular scheduled city council meeting to order. Good evening, everyone. The time is 7:05 p.m. It is Tuesday, April the 20th. Would the city secretary please call the roll?
Mitchell.
Here.
Coach.
Here.
Ellison.
Present.
Flores Kale. Here. Rizzo.
Here.
Bradshaw.
Here.
Tobias.
Here.
All right, 7 members present. Would all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next up, approval of the minutes.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for April 6th special meeting and regular council meeting for April 6, 2021.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Tobias, seconded by Councilmember Flores Kale that we approve the minutes. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Next up, citizen comments period. At this time, we ask anyone in the audience who wishes to come forward and speak on any item to please do so. We ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes and that you direct those comments to the mayor and council. We also ask that you fill out a citizen comments form and submit that to either myself or the city secretary. I do have one form submitted, and that is by Mr. Michael Kloss.
I'd like to make a comment on the item number 6, and also number 8. I understand, and the pool does need, the repairs, but it seems to me that number 8 should come before number 6 to get the repairs for the plumbing into the walls before you do the plastering. And if that is so, then they might need to make sure. And is there a time frame written into the contract so it doesn't linger on complete on or before date, so that citizens can know that, hey, this is going to take place before that. Other than that, let's get it going swimming. So anyway, that. And then I'm here to make support for of myself and those that have made known to me for item number 14. So with that, I thank you for what you do. Have a great evening and a better tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Claus. That's the only form I have filled out. Is there anyone else who wishes to come forward and speak? You can fill it out after your comments. Just please state your name for the record.
Joseph? First, last?
First and last,
Joseph
please.
Freeman? Am I good?
Yes, sir.
All right, so this is, he made a comment about 14. This is actually about 14. You may remember me last time my wife and my kids came up to talk to you. But I actually wanted to speak regarding the Halloween ordinance you guys are considering. So I kind of wrote, and I'm trying to keep it short, but I'll try to read as fast as I can. Bear with me. So this inquiry is about the new ordinance regarding sex offenders. I usually don't come to these meetings and speak because these meetings are generally one-sided and extremely biased. The only reason why I decided to show up and speak today is because I am a father of 3 who is also a registered sex offender based off of a small legal technicality. I use the word small legal technicality very loosely because I'm not the person who considers pointing fingers at victims and stuff like that, but at the same time, I do believe that once a punishment has been served, then that should be the end of it. I was going to say this part, but I'm just going to go ahead and skip it. So the Halloween restriction is where I should start, I guess. I was informed that certain individuals with sex offenses are not allowed to decorate their property on October 31st. Individuals with sex offenses are not allowed to have their porch light on either for Halloween. My response to that ordinance would be the following. I feel that decorations on my property should be treated the same as Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, when families are walking through the neighborhood, drinking hot chocolate and all that good stuff and taking pictures. Decorations on my property are for viewing purposes only. And just because you see decorations on an individual's property, that does not give you the right to enter onto someone else's property for any reason unless you've been formally invited. I believe that is kind of walking a thin line between trespassing. Also, last time I checked, the property owner was fully responsible for paying taxes, any and all taxes, that is. Not the city of Kyle, not the Kyle Police Department. Just imagine being a homeowner and someone randomly stepping in and saying, hey, don't do this to your property so that we can stay safe. It's really a bunch of...
You can wrap up your thought.
Okay. I have a daughter who's 12, so in another year or 2, she's going to be too old to be out here trick-or-treating, and she's going to want to pass out candy to the individuals who already know us. So I just believe that the discretion should be left up to the parents to decide, which houses are okay to go to, which houses you should stay away from, and it really doesn't make any sense to allow your child to just kind of roam the neighborhood unattended, you know what I'm saying? Especially in a neighborhood that you don't even know, So,
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
That's okay.
Actually had a lot. Can I email this to you?
Yes, you can.
I sure will.
All right, is there anyone else who wishes to come forward and speak on any item? All right, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close citizen comments. It's now closed. All right, next up, presentation by Texas State University's MBA Capstone Group on Uber Kyle 314 program. Samantha Armbruster.
Good Evening, Mayor and Council. We were approached by Texas State University's Dr. Cameron about partnering with their MBA Capstone group. And they looked at a number of programs, initiatives that have been kicked off by the city, and we're really excited to dive into our Uber Kyle 314 program. So great to have their expertise. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to them for the presentation, and we'll be available for questions and comments after.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Hi, and thank you again for inviting us to present our findings. Before we get started, we would like to introduce ourselves. We are Texas State MBA candidates, and this is our Capstone project. I'm Joe Savick, and my role is to aid in the organization and research of the project. Amy Kramer, with her experience in government policies, dove deep into grant options. Rio, with his marketing background, devised an awareness campaign. Tomislav, with his finance experience, looked at comparative models of transportation for similar-sized cities. And Megan, with her account management background, kept us all in line with the best interest of the city of Kyle. We are here to present our key recommendations. These are based on a contextual and comparative analysis, which we will get into a bit later. Our first recommendation is to apply for a couple grants that we found the city to be eligible for. Our next recommendation is to perform some additional awareness and marketing activities. And our final recommendation is to revisit the program as ridership approaches 58 rides per day. Given the average cost to the city per ride, 58 daily rides is when the allocated budget would be surpassed. Before we dive into these recommendations, please allow us to tell you how we got here. We came into this project blind, unaware about the city of Kyle, public transportation, and that Uber was even an option in this space. Many thanks to Samantha, who had the patience as we peppered her with questions. She introduced us to Jerry and James, who provided a lot of the historical context. The strengths of the Uber Kyle 314 program became clear in our discussions about the history of past public transportation programs. Where buses and trolleys were fixed route and set schedule, the Uber program provides door-to-door and on-demand service. Where buses and trolleys required upfront investment, the Uber program provides usage-based pricing. Where Lyft provided these services and strengths as well, Uber stood out by providing wheelchair accessibility. Key recommendations often flow from turning weaknesses into opportunities. Funding of the program is being provided solely by the city of Kyle. We have some great recommendations, grant recommendations to help here. Ridership is low compared to public transportation programs in similar sized cities. We are recommending marketing activities here to raise awareness. Before we dive into those, let's look closer at those cities in more detail. Megan?
Thanks, Joe. We did research on 3 similar sized cities in Central Texas, namely Georgetown, Pflugerville, and San Marcos. Our analysis focused on comparing their public transit programs against the city of Kyle's Uber Kyle 314 program. Now, this slide that we're on right here does have a little bit of data on it, so it might be better to review it later, but I do want to call out specifically 2 numbers. Number 1 would be the current lower ridership numbers for Kyle compared to the other cities, and the second one would be the variable ride cost to the city with no subsidized support as of now. Our recommendations do address both of those data points. As we move to the next slide, this is where we're going to explain a few of the grant options that we discovered in our research. These grants might be leveraged to help offset some of the financial burden and facilitate the future growth of the Uber Kyle 314 program. The first grant is the Urbanized Area Formula Grant, also known as a 5307. This grant is awarded based on a well-written proposal and population density, which Kyle does fall within. A local match of 20% is required for the 5307. The second grant we discovered is the Enhanced Mobility of Seniors and Individuals with Disabilities Public Transportation Grant. This is also a 5310. This grant is allocated based on census figures and does require a 50% match. If there are any further questions on these possible grants, our teammate Amy will be able to answer to the best abilities in the Q&A. Moving on to address the other data point of the lower respective ridership, in comparison to the other cities, we believe that it might be beneficial to ramp a few of the marketing activities. City of Kyle has a fantastic communications department, and they're doing a great job running various outlets for messaging. So our recommendations are basically just utilizing those existing platforms with the goal of boosting ridership by 50% for the Uber Kyle 314 program. To give a pretty quick example, one of the easiest ones we decided on would be doing short videos, how to take Uber, how to use the apps, the benefits of the program. These short videos can then be put on all your social media pages, City of Kyle website, and the YouTube channel. This is something that Samantha and her team can actually implement basically immediately, and we believe that it could yield more than 50% increase in ridership. On our final slide, we wanted to highlight our research into another city that has a similar partnership with Uber. The city of Innisfil in Canada has had Uber as their public transit partner since 2017. Innisfil is similar in population as Kyle, and their starting budget is also very close to Kyle's current budget. The desire for an on-demand option and hesitance for upfront investment in the traditional bus offering made Uber the choice for Innisfil. Their program has been deemed a success and demand has been increasing steadily. This does also mean that their budget had to drastically increase. And by 2019, it actually surpassed what the upfront capital for buses would have been. Now, while that budget growth might be seen as cautionary, the program is still in use and highly regarded. Innisfil residents have an overwhelming positive feedback for the program, with more than 75% satisfaction in survey results. The City Council also, per their website, deems it highly beneficial as well. We don't believe Kyle is in jeopardy of breaking the current budget, even with the increased ridership from marketing messaging. Rides would have to exceed 58 rides per day to break the current budget, and we just don't see that happening anytime in the future based on our analysis. This does conclude our formal presentation. Thank you for listening, and if there are any questions, we'd be happy to address them.
Thank you so much. That was a great presentation. Does anyone have any questions or comments for the presenters? One thing
Mayor, this is Councilmember Rizzo.
Go ahead, Councilman Rizzo.
Yeah, I just want to thank them for this presentation. I wanted to ask a little bit about the city that is benefiting from this. Why did the citizens think it was so beneficial, and why did they enjoy it more than any other public transit?
That's a great question. And I actually was the one that dove pretty deep into that case study. So I'll yield this question. The feedback was that the on-demand factor was really what they liked, because similar to how City of Kyle has had obviously some differing programs in the past, they weren't an on-demand where you can schedule a ride 10 minutes later, it's taking you directly to your destination. So that has been the #1 positive feedback for their survey results. And the second is that it's still very affordable, and because it's affordable with an on-demand, that's what they prefer about it, rather than, for instance, a bus system.
Thank you. I appreciate that information.
Absolutely.
That's actually kind of similar to my commentary was just going to be that some of the cities around here that you used as comparables have lower costs, variable cost per ride. But at the same time, the extra amount that's being spent here, I would hope that over time people would realize is due in large part because it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week from any point to any point. And that's not the same program that's being offered in these other areas. So I really am thankful for this because I agree with you that marketing could certainly boost ridership. And your case study from out of state seems to show that if enough people find out about it, and there are enough places for people to go, that it certainly should increase. So thank you for that as well.
Absolutely.
Did y'all enjoy the project? This is a different one, right? There's not a lot of Uber programs like this around.
You know, it's funny. Many of our classmates they've been jealous because we've been every week when we go in and our professor asks us, how are things going? And we all just kind of keep talking because it's been really exciting and it's been fun. And I think, you know, it opened a lot of our eyes. So it's a great program, and kudos to the City of Kyle.
Yeah. This is the second project, Scott, is that right? Same group, second project? Different group of students, different year. So this is second year in a row. Y'all are doing a fantastic job. You're representing Texas State very well and their MBA program. So thank you for that. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a question about the other city. Is Innisfil?
Yes, Innisfil.
You said the average cost per ride is $4 to $6. How much of that is that city? It's a Canadian city. Okay. How much are they subsidizing?
So their average cost per the rider is 4 to 6, and they're subsidizing after that up to 10 Canadian dollars. So there is, of course, still a breaking point, if you will. But and yes, you're correct. With the Canadian dollar, it's going to be a slightly different comparison.
Okay, so they don't have a flat fee similar to what we have where it stops at 314.
No.
Okay.
And also within that $4 to $6, to expound a little bit since you're asking, the 4 to 6 is for what they have deemed as key destination stops. So, for instance, their city council or their city. Where their city council kind of meets. They have like their recreation center is one of them, the library, etc. So that's what falls within $4 to $6. After that, for instance, and this was actually spoken about in a few different articles in my research, if teenagers are going to Starbucks, they will actually be able to utilize the program, but they only get I think what it cited was $2 off their ride. So they get a discount off the ride, but it's not within the 4 to 6. The 4 to 6 is for the key destinations throughout the city.
Okay, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
That might also explain why their numbers swell, because any Uber ride, you just get a discount. So it captures everything. Councilor Ellison, I'm sorry, did I hear you?
Yes, sir. I wanted to take a moment and look at the grant part of your slide. I guess these questions would probably be for Amy. So if you could tell me a little bit about your process in discovering these grants, and if you saw any other examples of cities that applied for these grants, or the likelihood of a city obtaining these grants. I know it was mentioned in a presentation, just a well-written statement for these items. Was there anything else that we could probably look out for on these?
Yeah, I did I did quite a bit of research on these grants, and what I saw, there are many smaller cities that are applying for these grants and getting them. I did see that so far, since your guys' program is very unique in the way that it's structured, I didn't find any, of course, I didn't find any other Uber partnerships that had already been granted money. So, but I think with a well-written proposal, what it does say in the grants is that these funds can be used for demand response services, which is the way that the service contract is set up between Kyle and the city of Kyle and Uber. That would fall under that definition of demand response service, which is eligible. It's an eligible operating expense for a city under 200,000 population. So I think if the grant proposal were written in such a way that the FTA knew exactly how the funds were being used and what portion of that was going to be used for direct payments to Uber, I think that they could filter in very nicely. And I do think there would be a good chance on getting that granted.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Anything else? All right, we're going to move on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, next up, CIP road projects and consent agenda presentation. Go ahead, Lon.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Leon Marcus, City Engineer. I'll start off with Grossman, since I already know about that one. Grossman, we still have some items we need to clean up and work out with the contractors. So we're getting closer and closer. There's about 5 items the project manager's working on to get them to wrap that one up. This isn't the right one. God. Let me just go ahead and tell you what I know from memory. The Windy Hill Street project's about 50% complete. We did complete change order number 3. The contractor has transferred traffic from the south half to the north half. So that was done yesterday, I believe. And we're expecting there are going to be another 4 months on that section, and hopefully we'll be open within about 4 to 6 months on that road. The South Side project, we're at 78% complete. They're still working on that driveway on the by pause. They're wrapping up the manhole work on both sides of the I-35. And I'm waiting for my next one. There we go. There we go. There's Windy Hill. You can see that they paved the south side. And our manholes are almost complete on both sides of the I-35. So we'll be able to start construction of the wastewater line that's on there by the TDCJ facility and start working our way back south on that project. Wastewater treatment plant expansion, we're at 51% complete. They're still working on the standard items. They still continue to work on Saturdays so they can try to catch up with their schedule. And the design that we've been asking them for that belt press or the dewatering design is about 90% complete. It should be completed by April 30th. Our status on the progress and on the schedule is still the same. We're hoping to, we're not hoping, we are planning to have this open and online by March of 2022. That's the current status of the project as of April 18th. I wanted to share this photograph with you of these two sites. You can just see from January 9th of 2021 to April 18th of 2021 how far this project has moved and how fast it's moved. It's a pretty significant improvement from just those 4 months. And we have a great contractor on the project. We have a great project manager, so we're moving very well on that project. Button Creek Interceptor, we're about 33% on that particular project. Well, site number 4, we did get an estimate from the contractor to make some additional improvements to our downtown elevated and add another logo on this particular elevated storage. But we have asked him for additional information or additional work to be done, so we're waiting for his latest estimate on that. Old Post Road. This is the first layer of a base that's being placed. They did tell me today that they passed all their densities. It's ready to go for the second layer. So there will be 4 layers of base and about 2 layers of hot mix. So it's going to be a very substantial roadway. Elliott Branch Interceptor, they're still working on their erosion controls and they're clearing the areas so they can start laying their pipe. The Caseta Ranch Roundabout, according to what we've been given, the information that is there at 95% complete. They do plan to close the intersection starting May 3rd to May 19th to wrap up that island that's in there. They'll be removing that existing curbing, replacing with what's called rolling or mountable curb. And we will have an apron in there. It's about 9.5 feet wide. It's a very substantial design, so it will handle any kind of heavy loads on that if the traffic has to traverse those curbs. And we did build a temporary bypass. Public Works was very helpful in building that temporary bypass so we can get people through the area in case we have any kind of flooding on those low water crossings. Paramount Subdivision's about 85% complete. I understand they're placing curb now, so they're still about 3 weeks away from wrapping that one up. Wanted to mention consent agenda item number 7. It was about 1987 when the Driscoll family dedicated a 50-foot easement for the city to have access to the Roland Lane elevated storage. There's not a need for that anymore since that development is being placed in there. The Paramount subdivision is going in there. We do have access through one of the city streets that's in there, so we won't have a need for that easement anymore. I'll turn this over to Mariana. She has some information she wants to pass on to you about items 5 and 6.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Mariana Espinoza, Parks and Recreation Director. We have 2 items on the consent agenda for this evening. The first is for the approval to post a second set of items for auction to be declared without value or recycled. These 17 items are identified in the cleanup efforts at the park maintenance yard. These items are either outdated, not working, not used, and we don't have any plans to use them. And to my knowledge, they've all been sitting for at least 3+ years. The second consent agenda item that we have is to award a purchase order to Atlantis Group for the replastering of the pool at James Adkins Pool. Funding for this item was already approved in this year's CIP budget, as we already had plans to get this replastered before the freeze came.
Thank you, Mariana. Any questions for Mariana or Leon or related to any items on consent? Councilmember Flores-Cale.
Hi, just real quick for Mariana. So I was going through the list of things that you guys plan to dispose of, and I know you have not been here for 5 years, so this is nothing against you. I would just like to see this kind of stuff taken care of in a more timely fashion, if that's possible. I guess when I was looking through it, I don't understand the need to keep it that long. And you do such a great job all the time with keeping up with stuff. So I would like to see in the future, just like maybe after like 1 or 2 years of non-use to dispose of it. If that's fine. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions or a motion on consent agenda?
Mayor, I make a motion to pass the consent agenda as written.
Second.
It's been moved by Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Councilmember Tobias, that we approve agendas, consent agenda items 5, 6, and 7. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. Motion carries 7-0. Next up, considering possible action, authorize award and execution of a purchase order to the BRANDT Companies, LLC through Buyboard Purchasing Cooperative Contract for an estimated amount of $130,000 to repair damages in the plumbing system located underground and inside walls at the James Adkins Pool. Ms. Espinoza.
Mariana again, Parks and Recreation Director. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. The BRANDT companies completed their pool investigation to determine what damages there were at the pool as a result of the winter storm. The investigation determined that all water piping inside the restrooms would need to be replaced. And in order to complete this, we will need to open up the walls, replace all piping, and patch back. In addition, to prevent any further damages from future freezes, we need to add the valves to isolate and drain portions of the system. We will be removing and installing any needed plumbing fixtures, demoing and scrapping existing concrete masonry units, rework and modify the piping system to tie into the existing water supply, providing water installation using fiber reinforced plastic with PVC fitting, replacing the water heaters in the pool, in the restrooms, replacing the reduced pressure zone at the repair facilities on the fresh water line, and fixing the on-deck pool shower systems. And the timeline to complete this will take approximately 4 weeks. And as mentioned earlier, the replaster will have to start immediately when the plumbing repairs are completed, which will put us at opening the pool this year in mid to late June. I have our aquatics programmer, Austin Harrelson, here, and also representatives from the BRANDT company are on the line if you guys have any questions.
Thank you, Mariana. Does anyone have any questions for Mariana or the contractor? Councilmember Flores Cal.
No questions. I just like to say that I like the idea that you guys are planning for any future freezes. So I read that and I was really impressed, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Councilman Rizzo.
Just Mariana, so they're going to wrap the pipe that's going to be in the walls?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
What are we doing as far as any exposed pipe on the outside? I know most of it's in the ground, but we've got the meter boxes in that. Are we taking steps to insulate those as well, just in case?
Mr. Bradley or Mr. King, would one of you like to address that question?
Yes, I believe that if there's any exposed piping that is damaged that we're replacing, that we'll be providing any insulation in order to protect it for the future.
And are we going to do anything for the meter boxes? I know the ground warms them a little bit, but this was a totally different type of freeze. I was just wondering if there was something we could do to make sure we've got either some kind of insulation or something on the covers of the meter boxes.
James, can you confirm that one?
We didn't look at anything on the meter boxes themselves. About the only thing you could do for that would sit in and put some kind of rigid insulation in there. And, you know, that you come in animals that could come in and damage that and just rip it out after you pay to do it. About the best option for that would be to go get some rolled insulation during the winter winter months and put it down inside the meter box itself. And I don't even know if that would even be needed. I don't think we had any damage at the meter boxes themselves. It was all in the walls where it wasn't.
So anything that was elevated, anything on the ground was stayed warm enough? So it was just elevated lines, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Councilor Ellison.
So part of the agenda items spoke to final repair costs, may be higher than the original estimate. What are some of the things that we can expect that might increase that cost, and approximately ballpark figures where that might be?
Mr. Bradley?
The main driver of the cost is opening up of the walls and then patching them back. And due to keeping the integrity of the structure, we can't just open everything up in one mobilization. It has to be done in sequence. So we have to open up a section of the wall, repair the piping, cover it back up, open up the next wall. So that makes it a little more labor intensive.
Councilor Tobias.
I know we're talking about the plumbing, Mariana, but was there any other structure damage to the pool due to the snowstorm? Let's say the sauna or the slides or anything like that that might be overlooked when the inspection was done?
No, after our walkthroughs, our repeatedly walkthroughs, we didn't see any other damages other than as a result of the plumbing.
That includes like the kiddie pool area where they have that fountain that comes up. None of that needs to be replaced or
So the
was it
little
damaged?
splash feature that's there
Yes,
already
ma'am.
was not working. And then as far as the slides, they're already getting scheduled for removal and replacement. So those two guys, they don't have any damages because they were already not working.
Is there a plan to make, to fix those that are not working?
Yep, so the standing splash pad feature that is positioned out there, our plan is to look at replacing that in the next fiscal budget year. And then with the slides, we had already budgeted to remove those and look at another splash feature option to put at the pool.
Thank you, Mariana.
Yes, sir.
My only question is, I suppose we don't have insurance on our pool for flood damage, correct? Is that the, and then also, second question is there a fiscal note attached? I didn't see a fiscal note on either of these, and so the first you said was budgeted. I can't imagine that we budgeted this, so I'd be curious to know what
So
funds
we,
they're coming out of.
Yeah, in our CIP budget for this year, we budgeted $215,000 for pool improvements. And so that's where we were going to pay for the pool damages out of, because we still hadn't used all that money yet.
What was it originally for?
Originally was to replace the splash feature, to replace the slides, and for the pool replaster.
And so are there parts of that initial plan that are not going to be completed because of this?
Yes, so we're going to have to go back, we're going to request more, but for the splash feature and the slides, I'm going to have to request additional funding. And additionally, it was also budgeted to replace the ADA chairlift for the pool.
But that's also, you're also waiting on that because of this.
We believe we can fit the ADA chairlift in still with what's budgeted.
So the initial question, there's no chance of this being covered under any kind of insurance, TML policy as it relates to flood damage? Pool's not covered in a way that City Hall is?
I do not know the answer. I would have to find out.
Scott, how about the ice damage? Could we use anything out there that was related to the storm?
Do you have that, Pervez? No. We'll have to ask TML. I don't have an answer for that.
Which just, I'm glad I asked now because of the projects that are getting sidelined because of this. So it's not without cost even. And so even if we're staying within budget, we're carving out some other improvements. So I don't know if we have any thoughts on that. Councilor Florescale.
Have we looked into FEMA at all for assistance for that?
So we did add it to the city's list of items that were affected by the storm damage. We submitted it.
Pervez, you have some clarity on any of this?
Mayor and Council, City's Finance Director for the record. To answer your questions on the FEMA, council member, we have turned it in as part of our list of projects and expenditures to FEMA for reimbursement. So when we do get that reimbursement, we'll reimburse the accounts that she has been using for this, or will be using for this reimbursement. FEMA will not reimburse us 100%. This will be subject to 75%. We are pursuing insurance reimbursement. We have not yet heard from TML, so I do not have a definite answer to what extent this will be covered from TML insurance. To the extent that TML covers that, we will again reimburse that account so it can be reused for other improvements associated with the pool.
You're saying that 75% you are certain or not certain?
We're not certain yet. With
For
FEMA,
anything?
With FEMA, there is no certainty. We just cleared 3 years ago, claims from 3 years ago with FEMA. So I don't know how long it will take for them to reimburse. We don't know for sure it will even make the 75% cut. Based on their definition of projects for reimbursement, it will certainly be eligible. Now, to what extent they approve or not approve, I do not have any assurance.
Okay. Any questions or comments or thoughts on that? About in particular about the projects that aren't going to be completed and that are going to be delayed. Does anybody have feedback on that?
I just want to say in a nutshell that, I know COVID came, took a big hit in snowstorm, and it's just, I'm just speaking on behalf of all the residents, especially all the kids. They're just so ready for that pool to open up. Okay. I've gotten a couple of emails saying, Councilman Tobias, have an estimated time, and I said, we're working on it. Hopefully it'll, like I said, maybe my Memorial Day weekend, I don't know, but it's just that kind of setback, seeing that we're looking at mid-June now. Are we looking at now 4th of July weekend? I mean, that's midsummer. And so it's just that kind of concerns, that's all. And
speaking with both the plumbing contractor and the replaster, we get the plumbing repairs done. It could take 3 to 4 weeks. 4 weeks was the extended time. Immediately get that replaster done. And so we're looking at a mid to late June. That is the estimated timeline.
Councilman Rizzo, go ahead.
I just keep thinking, I'm thinking about the younger kids and having that splash pad. Just as we're opening up, I just keep wondering, we've all gone through this, especially our little kids, trying to keep them super safe. And as more people get vaccinated, I'm just thinking we might be at that stage here in June where we can fully open is what I'm praying on. And I'd like those kids to be able to enjoy those amenities as well, the splash pad. Just wondering if there's a way we can achieve that goal.
We can definitely get, I'll speak with Austin and we'll get working on possibilities for still being able to get a splash feature out there, since the one that's out there hasn't worked for, my understanding, is quite some time. So we'll definitely get on it right away, see what we can get accomplished before the summer.
Okay.
Thank you, Mariana. I appreciate it. And let me know if I can be of any assistance.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Motions?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve. Consider possible action number 8 on the agenda.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Rizzo, seconded by Councilmember Flores-Cale that we approve agenda item number 8. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Next up, second reading, agenda item number 9, an ordinance amending Chapter 53 of the City of Kyle, Texas, for the purpose of rezoning approximately 14.08 acres of land from single-family R1 to townhome district R1T for property located at the north corner of Live Oak Street, St. Anthony's Drive. This is second reading. There is no public hearing. Does anybody want to have any updates or staff or any comments or additional thoughts on this? If not, entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item number 9.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Rizzo, seconded by Councilmember Ellison that we approve agenda item number 9. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Next up, agenda item number 10, acceptance of the city's comprehensive annual financial report, CAFR. and the independent auditor's report for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2020. Mr. Pervez Mohit.
Mayor and council members, for the record, I'm Pervez Mohit, City's Director of Finance. The agenda item before you this evening is a two-part action item. Part one is City Council's acceptance of the city's comprehensive annual financial report for fiscal year 2020. And part two of the action item is City Council's acceptance of the city auditor's report for the same fiscal year. So as you well know, city charter requires an annual audit of all accounts and funds of the city to be completed by an independent auditor each fiscal year. And then upon acceptance of the audit by City Council, the charter further requires that a summary of the results of the audit report be published in the newspaper of general circulation in the city of Kyle. A copy of the comprehensive annual financial report is in your agenda packet. We've also included the auditor's communication letter in your agenda packet, as well as the compliance report. In addition to that, we placed a paper copy of the gorgeous report on your dais. So that
Next time we need to do it with Christmas lights.
We'll do that, Mayor, next year.
Next year, Christmas lights, the new downtown.
So I'm going to quickly review a few highlights overall from the financial performance report. For fiscal year 2020, city's combined balance sheet reflected the following. Total assets were $407 million. Total liabilities, $121 million. And a combined net position or net equity of $285 million. So as you would compare your mortgage and the equity in your mortgage, the city's equity is 70% as compared to our liabilities. For fiscal year 2020, the total equity or net position increased by $52.4 million or 22.5% as compared to the fiscal year prior to that, or 2019. Now focusing on the city's primary operating fund, which is the general fund of the city. General fund revenue and transfers in from all sources totaled $35.6 million on an accrual basis. Also on an accrual basis, general fund expenditures and transfers out totaled $29.8 million. The ending fund balance for the city's general fund totaled $21.4 million on an accrual basis. This is an increase of $5.8 million from the prior fiscal year. So let me pause here for a minute because I kept repeating accrual basis. So I'll explain what I mean by accrual basis and why we use it for financial statements. So the city of Kyle, for financial reporting purposes, must follow standards prescribed by GASB or Governmental Accounting Standards Board. They require that income or revenues or expenditures within 60 days of your fiscal year end should be accrued in the fiscal year financial statements that you're completing. So for that purposes, we had about $2.5 million worth of accrued revenues that we included in fiscal year 2020 that actually came in October, which is the new fiscal year. So for financial reporting purposes, we accrue, but for budget purposes, we go on a budget basis, which is basically cash basis. What revenues come in for that fiscal year, what is expected that fiscal year is what we budget. So there's a slight difference between financial reporting and budget. So I know Mayor was interested in the fund balance. I wanted to caveat that it is an accrual basis. And now for the second part of the council agenda, which is the acceptance of the auditor's report. The city's audit for fiscal year ending September 30 was successfully completed by the independent CPA firm of RSM US LLP. RSM is a national accounting and consulting firm with offices and clients throughout the US. The reason I mention or emphasize that they're a national firm is because this is a huge benefit to the city of Kyle and Kyle's financial team, because they bring knowledge and experience of best practices of governmental entities from across the United States, and not just Texas or Austin area. The independent auditor's report, from the city's perspective, is an independent and unbiased report card that addresses 3 very specific objectives for the city council, for city management, and for the taxpayers and bondholders of Kyle. And these 3 objectives are, first, it validates the city's financial condition based on an independent audit of the city's accounts and funds, independent of city staff or city management. Second, it is an independent assessment of the city's accounting and financial reporting systems, city's internal controls, and the city's financial management team's compliance with city financial policies as adopted by City Council. And third, it provides an independent assurance to City Council and the bondholders that the city's accounting and financial reporting systems and practices are in compliance with the rules and standards as prescribed by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. This is a board, a national board, that prescribes standards for all governmental entities. It doesn't matter which state, which city, which county. They all follow the same rules and regulations. There are 4 types of audit reports that any independent auditor can issue. It's just 4. And I will give you a brief explanation of each and why they're issued. Starting from the bottom, the worst kind, and then we'll get to the top. The worst one is a disclaimer report. If an auditor issues a disclaimer report, red flags should go up for the city council or for the management team. The reason this type of report is issued by the auditor is because the scope of auditor's examination is or was limited in such a way that they were unable to issue a report on the financial statements. In other words, we hired the auditor, they came on site, they began their work, and then the finance director says, you can look at this part of the financial system, but you cannot look at any other parts. So we're restricting their scope. For whatever reason, it should ring an alarm. So in my view, this type of auditor's report is equivalent to an I, letter grade I, or an F. Either way, it signifies a failure. The next type is an adverse report. This report is issued when the financial management and reporting systems and the internal controls are in such poor state that the auditor throws up his hands and basically determines that the entity's financial statements cannot be relied upon and that the integrity of its management is questionable. This type of auditor's report is equivalent to, in my opinion, receiving a letter grade of F. This is when entities or the elected governing board of any governmental entity that receives this type of report should call in forensic accountants or the Texas Rangers. Because it's not just incompetence, but there might be fraud involved. The third type is qualified report. Overall, the financial statements are pretty good. They fairly represent the organization's financial positions, but there might be some deficiencies, significant deficiencies in certain parts of the financial management system. Overall, they're good, but there is some area of deficiency that needs improvement. This type of auditor's report is equivalent to receiving a letter grade C. It's just average. It requires improvements by the entity. And finally, the last type is the unqualified report. This is also referred to as a clean auditor's report. This is the highest level or the best type of auditor's report that can be issued for audits of any government, state, county, doesn't matter, cities. This type of auditor's report, in my opinion, is equivalent to receiving a letter grade A+. It represents excellence from all aspects of your financial management. So I can let you, for a second or two, guess which one we received. As the city's director of finance, I am pleased to inform you the city of Kyle received the highest level, or the clean, unqualified report by our independent auditors for fiscal year 2020. I would like to take this opportunity to recognize and thank not only the auditors, but our financial team. It speaks volume of your financial team, not just me, but everyone in the finance department. It is because of them that we were able to achieve this, and we have achieved this every year since I've been here. Specifically, I would like to recognize our accounting manager, Andy Alejandro, for coordinating and managing the audit process this year. After City Council's acceptance, a complete copy of the audit report and the financial report will be posted and made available to the citizens on our city's webpage. Mayor and Council, this concludes my presentation. We also have Mr. Tino Robledo, who's a senior audit manager with RSMUS. Between the two of us, we can answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Pervez. Anybody have any questions or comments for Councilor Bradshaw?
I was just going to say, great job. Thank you so much for all of the hard work and everything that you and your team do.
Thank you.
Councilmember Florescale.
You guys are one of my favorites. So thank you so much. I try to keep up with what you're doing, and I read the reports, and I'm so impressed. And so to know that we've had an A every year since you've been here only leads me to believe that you won't be retiring anytime soon.
Councilmember Rizzo. I'm going to go ahead and jump in there.
Perez.
Yes.
I just want to thank you and your team, everyone there. As we come into a new budget season, having this information, having a team like you behind us makes the process a lot easier. It's not easy to set up a budget for a city, but having a staff as wonderful as the staff we have behind us really makes that process a lot easier. So thank you for all the hard work.
Thank you.
Councilmember Ellison.
Yes, I just want to briefly second, third, and fourth, all the kudos that we're giving to our much deserved and amazing finance staff. I ran into Pervez and Andy earlier today. I didn't put it together that this was on the agenda, and I should have thanked him in person, but please share our thanks with Andy and the rest of the finance team. As you said, it takes a team effort to make it work. Go Team Kyle. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Entertain a motion.
Mayor, motion to approve. The item is written.
Second.
All right, it's been motioned by Councilmember Ellison, seconded by Councilmember Rizzo, that we accept the city's comprehensive annual financial report. Is there any discussion on the motion? No. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Motion carries 7-0.
For all your hard work.
Perez, if you could make sure I get my copy of that in my mailbox, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
It's Councilmember Rizzo.
Will do.
Thank you, sir.
All right, next up, agenda item number 11, first reading, an ordinance amending Chapter 53 zoning for the purpose of amending PUD documentation related to approximately 107.247 acres of land. to allow for impervious services calculations for 2 or more lots within the PUD that may be combined and considered as a whole. It's on the HBI track. This item has a public hearing. Mr. Coons, you want to give a high-level summary, and then we'll open the public hearing and then to questions?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Howard Kuntz. I'm the Community Development Director for the record. I'm going to share my screen real quick so that I can have a visual aid to share as I speak. You should be able to see a vicinity map of the HPI project. It's the subject of tonight's rezoning. This is a rezoning not to change the zoning classification. It will not change the zoning designation. It will not change the allowable land uses permissible on the property. Instead, what this for is to amend some of the associated conditions that come along contractually with PUD zoning. Specifically, what they're wanting to do is be able to treat the stormwater collection for all the property that's within this yellow boundary. They want to be able to treat that on what we would term a global scale, or being able to treat it for the entirety of the project instead of treating it lot by lot. So these brown lines in here are individual lots that have been carved out of the parent parcel. And right now, each one of these lots is responsible for stormwater detention of their own individual space. What the developer wants to do is be able to create a stormwater management facility that captures the stormwater effluent from a series of the properties. I think these properties here would all be linked to one, what's termed a party pond, one stormwater management pond that would be responsible for collecting all of the stormwater from them. Similarly, the impervious surface ratios would be treated collectively for all the lots, because the size of the pond would be made so that it can handle the effluent from all of the lots. So it's a minor detail. It doesn't allow for any more stormwater to go off of the parent parcel at large. It's just treating the development of the site more as a comprehensive site rather than doing it individually. So go ahead and, I guess, open the public hearing in case there's anybody that wants to talk, but I'm always available for any questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Coons. Unless there are objections, at this time I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing for this item. Is there anyone who wishes to come forward and speak? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. It is now closed. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Howard? Motions?
Mayor, motion to approve. The item is written.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Ellison, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Coach, that we approve agenda item number 11 is written. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries, and unless there's objection, we'll go ahead and have this item be finally passed. Seeing none, it finally passed. All right, next up, agenda item number 12, resolution of the City of Kyle, Texas, demonstrating support and enthusiasm for the Texas Legislature's bills HCR 12 and SCR 22, which if passed would designate the City of Kyle as the official pie capital of Texas. We have it trademarked, but I believe we have this also before the legislature now, so they've asked for this, correct?
Correct.
Go ahead, Samantha.
Samantha Armbruster, Director of Communications. So before you is a resolution for support at the local level for Kyle to be officially designated by the state as the pie capital of Texas. As you just mentioned, we did get the trademark for that in 2018 and have been using that brand. Now we have our Representatives Campbell and Zwiener that have taken this up in legislation to make it official at the state level. We have our own Chief of Staff, Jerry Hendricks, that has testified at the committee level in the Senate. In a couple weeks, it will be going before House committee. So again, this is just a resolution to show support at the local level.
Thank you, Samantha. Any questions, comments, motions? Councilor Floresco.
Can you tell me how many pie companies we have here currently?
I'm going to have to defer. I'm hoping that Jerry can help me out here because I feel pretty new to this conversation and I would love some support.
Mayor and Council, for the record, Jerry Hendricks, Chief of Staff.
We have officially one company that is called the Pie Company, but as part of our branding efforts for the past several years, we've been certifying businesses all over town. And I believe the number I gave to the committee last week was 168. My memory fails me sometimes, but that seems like the number. And we've even had 12 companies apply for certification during the pandemic. So I think we've done a good job of promoting that brand, and we're even incorporating in some of our economic development searches companies that bring in pies or have a pie theme, or asking them to bring a pie theme. So we have one pie company to answer your question, but we have lots of businesses promoting pies.
Okay, I like the idea. I would really, really like to see more pie companies. Just because my fear is if this, not that they would, but if this company ever closes, I want to make sure that we can stand behind the whole pie capital of Texas idea. So you tell me what I can do to help us get more pies here, because everybody loves pie. And I was told today by several people who live out in Westlake, if there was a lot of pie companies, they would come to Kyle to eat the pies. So.
Yeah. Just continue offering us your support. There's some other things that we've done to promote pies. Name the big one, of course, is our destination event, Pie in the Sky. But I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention that the real catalyst for us moving forward with this was when HEB chose the pie crust made by our pie company to put that into their stores, and suddenly a product from the city of Kyle was all over the state at HEBs. And that was really the catalyst for us pursuing this brand.
Thank you.
Yeah. Councilor Ellison.
Thank you. So I've been around for a little while. I remember stepping in for the mayor a few years back when we did the resolution over at the train depot. And so it's been a long time we've been working on this. One of my biggest understandings when this was brought about, certainly pie, P-I-E, the dessert, is what everybody thinks about. But my understanding is that it's been the full gauntlet of pie. So pie desserts, pizza pies, Frito pies, all those different types of things. We just had earlier in our agenda item a transportation agenda item in which we talk about pie being 314 pie, PI. So that has been a lot of times for me, and when I talk to citizens about it, I know we always think of dessert pie when we think of that, but that's what I think holistically is the one of the reasons for that moniker and coming up with the pie capital. The other big thing is certainly, and I think Councilmember Flores-Kale did a good job of surveying people outside of the city. I know people in the city feel some type of way about it, and certainly we can promote our city in various different ways. I think this council has done a great job of working on some projects that our city is going to be known for years and decades to come. I think the laundry list will certainly be there. This is certainly for another attraction, and I say another because my idea is that, or my hope is that there will be many things that will bring people to the city of Kyle, including things that deal with pie or all the different sorts of that. But those are just some of my thoughts about that and some of the things that over the years that I have understood what the pie capital also means.
Mayor.
Councilman Rizzo.
Mayor. Yeah, just to add a little bit more to it, is when I think of Kyle, I think of pie. It's something that past Councilmember Villalobos and I used to always talk about was, what do you think about when you think of pie? As we're growing as a city, we think of public safety, infrastructure, economic development, and we're growing in that capacity. And as Councilmember Ellison alluded to, we've got a lot of wonderful things that are coming our way for the residents of Kyle. And with that being said, I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item number 12.
It's been moved by Councilmember Rizzo, seconded by Councilmember Flores-Kale. Is there any further discussion? Councilmember Tobias.
The only thing I'd like to state is kind of to go off of what Ms. Flores-Kale was stating. Yes, we only have one pie company technically in Kyle, And when I saw this, I kind of look back now, and I hate to use a term like in Austin, because we are not Austin, but they are the music capital of the world, in a sense. And look at them now. They're pretty much, their whole music scene is gone. And so it's changed. So I guess the deal is, if we're going to vote on this, is this going to be a promotion for more companies to want to look at Kyle, to come and, that are bakeries, that are small shops? By passing this, would you think that this would be an incentive for some of those companies or small shops to look at Kyle as a location?
Well, I would say that right now we have a lot of signs and T-shirts. I think this continued support and things like this legislation brings the parade. And that's, when you're celebrating a brand, you want that constant celebration of it. And this is just one more way to bring the parade and really celebrate it as a brand, which will bring attraction in a lot of different ways, one being economic development and business.
Any other discussion?
I would just like to thank State Representative Aaron Zwiener and State Senator Donna Campbell for their support on this, and you, Jerry, for going out there and testifying on our behalf. Thank you very much. Full support of this.
Any other comments, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Next up, item number 13, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Kyle, Texas, providing no objection to the submission of an application for low-income housing tax credits to the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs for the proposed Balcones Trail multifamily housing project located at 601 Philomena Drive, approving findings related to the application, imposing conditions for such non-objection, and declaring an effective date. James R. Earp, Assistant City Manager, this is your item. This item does have a public hearing. Would you like to go first, James, then we can open up the public hearing?
Be happy to, Mayor Pro Tem. For the record, James Earp. Good to see all y'all tonight, Assistant City Manager. This is really a technicality. The council took action at the last meeting endorsing the pilot program for this project. This is the letter of that the council has to allow for in order for it to go into their application package to the federal government. So the public hearing is also a requirement of this procedure.
Okay, well, we will go ahead and open up the public hearing. If there's anybody wishing to speak on this item, you can do so now. Seeing none, I will go ahead and close the public hearing. The public hearing is now closed. Would someone like to make a motion?
Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Rizzo, for the record, like to make a motion to approve agenda item number 13.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Rizzo, a second by Councilmember Tobias. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
I like it.
Nice gavel.
Thank you, Councilmember Rizzo.
Close my browser. All right, next up, agenda item number 14, first reading an ordinance of the City of Kyle, Texas, regulating sex offender residency within the city and establishing child safety zones. Chief Barnett, this is your item. We've discussed it a few times, postponed it a few times. More and more information has come into the backup material, so I appreciate that. Do you have any anything you'd like to say to kick us off?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. For the record, Jeff Barnett, Chief of Police. And as you outlined, Mayor, we've discussed this on several occasions before. We've provided some more maps to provide you some more clarity and some options to consider. One of the basic principles that we need to establish tonight, should the council decide to move forward with this ordinance, would be to establish the distance. That's been one of the primary points of concern. We've discussed distances for residences of the sex offenders that meet the definition of 500, 1,000, 1,500, and up to 2,000 feet. We've provided those maps in the backup material as well. I certainly want to make best use of our time. Again, this sex offender ordinance creates a child safety zone from where people can reside and where they cannot reside within the city. For those that are deemed child sex offenders, that means a person who's required to register in the Texas Department of Public Safety sex offender database because their conviction involved a minor. A minor, per this definition, is a person that is younger than 17 years of age. I'll very briefly address the Halloween question that came up earlier in citizen comments. This does prohibit a child sex offender from leaving decorations or exterior porch lights on or otherwise invite trick-or-treaters to their residence. This does not regulate where they go. This does not regulate if they can go to schools and visit or go out and trick-or-treat on that night or other locations. This is simply about where they can reside. I do have Officer Dago Pates, who is our sex offender registry officer, among other duties, as well as Sergeant Catlin Bone from our CID division, and they're here to answer any questions. I know there may be some specific points that you might want to hear. Otherwise, I'll stop there and see if there's any questions for me or staff.
Thank you, Chief. Does anybody have any questions or comments to start us off? Councilman Bradshaw.
I have quite a few questions, and I'm not sure if you want to have Officer Pates come up here and join you for them. Okay, so in the backup material, it is mentioned that the reason that this ordinance kind of came about was because you had sex offenders specifically say that they actively sought out Kyle because we do not have an ordinance. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Council, I'm Officer Dago Pates. Sorry to introduce myself late. Yes, ma'am.
And since the first presentation of this child safety zone, have you received more calls from sex offenders looking to move here because we do not have an ordinance in place?
Yes, ma'am.
And can you tell me if there have been any instances in which sex offenders living in Kyle have re-offended in Kyle?
Yes. Since 2014, we've had 13 arrests for offenders either violating their state rules, and out of that 13, we've had one that has re-offended with a new sex offense here in the city of Kyle.
So they have both done sexual assault and other crimes as well?
Yes, ma'am.
And so I saw the information in the backup material, but it read a little confusing. Out of all of the current registered sex offenders with victims that are considered a minor, how many of them have physical victims, meaning no, it's not child pornography found on one of their devices, it's an actual victim?
54 of those. So out of the 65 sex offenders we have, 59 of them were child related, and out of the 59, 54 of them had an actual victim.
Okay, that's all my questions for now.
Any questions or comments? Councilor Flores-Kell.
Hi, thank you very much for this ordinance. I just want to say, I think after Monday, was it Monday or Sunday, where there was that sheriff detective who was a sex offender, and I saw all that go down and take place, the first thing I thought was, I don't want that to happen in Kyle. Like, he was not captured for 20 hours. So just the idea and the thought of that really made me nervous. And I just want to address two issues that I think that were brought up previously. One having to do with Halloween. And so I just want to clarify that people can decorate, just not on Halloween. So like Halloween, the 30th is okay, and the 1st is okay. What we don't want to do is on the day of, make your house inviting, correct?
Absolutely, yes, ma'am.
Okay. I really think that's my only question. My other comment would be, people tend to say, I've done my time. But unfortunately for offenders, your time really never ends. it continues. And that's why you have to register as a sex offender, because that's with you for the rest of your life. So hopefully people think about that before, and I get it. With the time, we're at the age of internet. So there are a lot of people who don't know how old somebody is or whatever the case may be. But I think this kind of ordinance will hopefully make people think before they act. So, but thank you very much for this. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments or discussions? The main thing we have to discuss here, I think, is the maps. I haven't heard any dissent really on the Halloween since we've been discussing it. There's 2 maps in the backup material that I really appreciate that it looks like got upgraded where you could see individual lots, and so it's just clearer as to what the impact and what areas of town you would be able to live in versus what areas of town you wouldn't. Does anybody, we've had discussions about whether 500, 1,000, 1,500, or 2,000. We've had discussions of splitting up the schools component from the parks, and we've got some different maps that have sort of been associated with that brought forward. Really, I think we just kind of all need to have a discussion about which areas, what numbers we want to go with. The 500 looks like it covers about half. The 1,000 looks like it covers about 2/3, 3/4, something along those lines of the lots. So that's the best as I could tell from the backup material. Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
I like the 1,000 feet. I think it's a good meeting point between 2,000 and 500.
Anyone else?
What was the original ask?
1,500. But there's really no difference between 1,500 and 2,000. They both completely cover Kyle, so it doesn't really matter. It's, do you want to cover all of it? Do you want to cover most of it? Or do you want to cover half of it? It's just really that simple. I'm on the side of half. I've been kind of clear on that, but we just need to gotta get through this motion and vote situation. Or none, if you don't like it, or something else. All the options.
Mayor, so far, I think Councilmember Kell has stated 1,000 feet.
Correct.
Nobody else stated anything yet? Else?
I'm 500. 500 covers about half the city. Mayor Pro Tem.
And to speak to Cale's request to be somewhere in the middle, if it started at 1,500, is there a 750 option in there somewhere?
Well, I think it went up to 2,000, and then someone said 500.
If I may, I'm trying to, the point I'm trying to make is that 500 is the middle ground, because 1,500 is all of it, or you can have none of it, or you can have half of it. 1,000 is I mean, I'm sure y'all see the map too, but if the way that 1,000 is written, it looks to cover probably 75% of the lots. So if that's what we want to do, that's what 1,000 would do though, so.
I'd like to make a motion to approve possible action item number 14 with 1,000 feet.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Councilmember Flores Kale, seconded by Councilmember Tobias. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Nay. Motion carries 6-1. Next up, City Manager's report.
Mayor, Council, Scott Sellers for the record. We've got a good city manager's report for you tonight. We are going to share some of the results of the household survey that we received just this last Friday. So I'm going to pull that up for you now. There we go. Oh, okay, finally. Apologize for that. Okay, sorry, PowerPoint's always a little finicky with the screen share. So in our 2021 community survey, you'll see we had a response rate of about 1.3% of the residents, 685 responses compared to about 550 last year. We did ask for the satisfaction and importance of multiple city services, and you can not see very well on the screen, but I'll share just from top to bottom. Municipal court, again, came in at the highest satisfaction of city services for, I think, the third or fourth year in a row. I should mention that this survey is already up on cityofkyle.com/survey or is being added immediately. Correct? Yes, it's on there. So you can follow along and see these results. So municipal court, and then just going down, emergency response, library, sewer, wastewater, parks, trash, green waste and recycling, Uber Kyle 314, traffic laws, crime prevention, animal control, code enforcement, utility billing, public outreach, litter prevention, recreation programs, sidewalk maintenance, trail system, drinking water, economic development, and street maintenance. So those, again, you can hop into the actual survey online and see those and compare those to prior years. The importance of city services, I won't read all the way through the list, but you can see for the most part, you know, a lot of these rank extremely high in importance, except for Uber Kyle 314, which is at the bottom at only 50%. So I thought that was interesting with the report we heard earlier. Next slide, you'll see over year since we started doing the survey in 2015, the change in satisfaction for each of these services over time. Some other services here, again, change over time. Some have gone down a little bit, some have gone up quite a bit. A few more here just to give you a good sample. Yeah, it's also helpful as you look at this to see the scale on the left. Sometimes that scale doesn't paint the best picture, but you can see we're still, you know, between 60 and 80 on a lot of these. This is fun. This is a word cloud. The question was, which streets would you prefer to, or prefer the city to prioritize for maintenance? You can see based on the size of the word, the amount of times it ranked in the open-ended, and that's why we kind of have to do it this way. People write in their response, and then we word cloud those responses. So you see several of the projects that we've been talking about, either on our CIP or in other conversations, Old Stagecoach Road, Windy Hill, Bunton, BB Center. So I think the public is aware that we have plans for these roads here in the next several years, and funds have already been applied for design and engineering on several of these.
I like that veterans. That's pretty cool to see that there.
Veterans is
I've
on
seen
there.
that come back at us in a non on the dais way.
Right. And, you know, for those watching, you know, veterans, for example, is a state road, so we would have to work with TxDOT on roads like that. Recreation and trails. We did ask, since this year we were working hard on our trail system, asked what surface type the citizens would like to see, and the overwhelming response was a variety of options, whether that's concrete, unpaved, natural. We'll have more of an opportunity to share that on June 5th when we have our open house about the trail. And a couple of questions down below about recreational options. We could add quite a bit more recreational options as agree and completely agree is about 45% that we have enough. So citizens are still clamoring for more recreation options, which is what we are working to provide. Word cloud on recreation. These are the types of recreational opportunities the community would like to see. So you'll notice pool, courts, which could be basketball, could be tennis, and then park improvements, music, events. So again, very quality of life centric in that we are working to provide for the residents. We do ask a question each year about retail and dining options, and we get a whole slew of results, but you can see, again, based on this word cloud, the type of retailers and dining that the citizens in Kyle would like. So take a look there. Costco typically comes in the top from a retail standpoint, but we have Trader Joe's, and local restaurants, some other healthy options, and you can see the types of restaurants that are
I saw
there.
Chipotle's pretty popular.
Chipotle's in there. Yes, it is. In the restaurants, you'll see dine-in, and I think that's a big thing. You know, people want to have more sit-down or fine dining options here in Kyle. Just from the demographics, sometimes we ask, where are these people all coming from here in Kyle? Well, we do ask that question. If you've moved in, to Kyle recently, put the zip code from where you moved, and you'll see that the majority have actually come from Austin. So all areas in Austin, some in San Marcos, et cetera, South Austin, North Austin, but you'll see that the large bulk of people moving here to Kyle are coming from the surrounding region. And why? Well, this answers that question. Typically, it's the cost of living, the cost of housing. And where they work, that's, again, the other question that we like to know. 35% work in Austin, 17% work in some sort of at-home based work in Kyle, whether that's telecommuting, et cetera.
Did that change this year from last year?
It's
Any
gone-
knowledge? Sorry, I know that's
Yes.
a right on the spot kind of question, but would be interested to know if that number ticked up.
Yes.
Maybe just an email later if
Well,
you find it or whatever.
We'll have that
Don't
very,
stress. It's just
very
city
shortly
manager's
for you.
report. Don't stress.
Very shortly. And then you'll see those other areas where our citizens work. Okay, that's it for the annual community survey. Again, a lot more detailed responses online at cityofkyle.com/survey. I want to thank all the citizens for filling that out. Thank Samantha and Communications Department for helping administer it. And Samantha has an answer already for you.
Yes, so it shows that in 2020, the survey results, the at-home in Kyle workplace was about 14%.
And the 19 also, if you have it right there. Okay. never
Sorry.
mind. Next time. Thank you.
We'll get there.
Hey, that was quick. Good job.
All right, moving off the survey, wanted to just touch on a few other items here on the city manager report. The budget calendar is there in front of you. If you have questions, please let me know. But the key item there is Saturday, May 1st, which is the budget work session here at City Hall. COVID-19 testing and vaccine. I think everyone is aware that ages 16 and older are eligible. cityofkyle.com/COVID is where to find areas that are administering that vaccine. There's a vaccine locator map online. We are hosting a mass vaccination event, and that's probably the biggest new news that I can share tonight in cooperation with Representative Wiener's office and the Texas TEDM. With the National Guard, they will be offering a mass vaccination April 22nd at Texas State Student Event Center in San Marcos, and then May 16th here in Kyle at Lehman High School. So that's from 8 to 5. We'll have about 1,000 doses of vaccine. No appointment is necessary. So if you have not yet received your vaccine and would like to come to a kind of a walk-up, that will be May 16th here at Lehman High School. Economic Development Week is May 9th through 15th. So we've got our 3 wonderful economic development staff here. We are here for you. They are here for us. 15-year celebration, and we'll have some activities to celebrate economic development and the work that our great ED department is doing for us during that recognition period. There is a Ready, Set, Thrive business webinar that we are partnering with Kyle Chamber. That is May 4th. So for more information, we hope our business community can sign up for that. Get on kyleed.com. Mass food distribution, we do have more coming forward. April 24th from 9 to 12, May 22nd from 9 to 12, and June 26th from 8 to 11. These are at ACC Hayes campus, and as always, we are looking for volunteers for those events. Summer camp registration is open right now. Camps begin May 31st. So please get online, sign up. We're very excited to be bringing those camps to you this year. You'll see the time there, 7 to 6, Monday through Friday, and what the fee covers. So there will be field trips, pool days, etc. citycal.com/summer camp for more information. And then we have Family Skate Night at Ash Pavilion. So this Friday, April 23rd, is our skate night at 5:30. You'll see the cost there. Bring your own skates. Please get online and register for that event. It should be fun. We hope to fill that pavilion full of a bunch of happy skaters. And that's it for my report. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Scott. I think that concludes our business. Do we still need to go back to exec?
Yes, sir.
Scott, one reminder about the training, the NIMS training. Did you bring that up?
Yes, thank you so much for that. Council, I did send out an email with some dates on there from our local emergency management coordinator who is happy to put on some training specifically for elected officials and senior administration. You have that email. I think we received a response back, but since the time and dates are somewhat limited there, we wanted to make sure that you all had a chance to look at your calendars and see what made sense for you. So those dates, I will pull that up really quickly here. We can go over those. Would be May 12th, May 26th, May 29th, or June 2nd, 3rd, 15th, or 19th. And again, both these trainings are about 5 hours, a little over 5 hours total, if you want to do it together. Otherwise, we can schedule 2 different times for that. These trainings should occur post the NIMS Incident Command System, the ICS training of 100, 200, 700, 800 that you can take online. So get those 4 out of the way, and then we'll do these a follow-up. So with that, yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm happy to go over some dates with you or have you get those scheduled.
I have one last thing real quick on the food distribution. This is just a small plea for those who attend and get groceries. I've done a couple of lots of these, and so has Councilman Rizzo. But if at all possible, if you're able to clear out some of your trunk space in your vehicle. The reason why is because the food bank has large amount of boxes of food, and we've been noticing through the events we're actually piling them on top of people because there's not enough room in their car. So it's just a small plea to those who are going to attend. If at all possible, you can allow some trunk space for those large boxes for us to be able to put, and that includes the produce and all the boxed items. Thank you.
Is that it? All right, we're going back into executive session. Paige, do we have to read it all out again? Pursuant to Chapter 551 Texas Government Code, the City Council reserves the right to convene into executive session from time to time as deemed necessary during this meeting. The City Council may convene into executive session pursuant to any lawful exception contained in Chapter 551. Contemplated litigation, City Lights and Kyle Marketplace subdivision development, changeable electronic variable message sign, Prairie Lakes Mud.
And that's it, Mayor.